There are times where you have the wrong camera setting and then you get really dark or really bright videos. In today's lesson, we're going to see how we can fix this problem using a few simple sliders. So I got two examples here. One is really bright and the other one is really dark. We're going to be using Lumetri Color to fix this, but before that, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. The first thing is that if your video is low quality and it has this problem, then fixing it will be really hard and almost impossible because you don't have enough details to salvage the video. So you want to make sure that the video you have is either shot by a professional camera or it has enough details for you to manipulate the way it looked and make it look better. Or else you would be spending too much time on something that's not possible. So make sure that you have at least HD footage and that it's not compressed, you got enough details. The higher the resolution, the better. So I shot these two videos at 4K, 60 frames per second using my phone. So I will switch to this tab that I just made myself. You just remove any of the tabs that you don't need with this option and just focus on the Lumetri Color panel and the preview panel. I have the different sequences down here so I can just switch whenever I want. Once you have set your workspace the way you want it to, you can just go down here, save as new workspace. Give it a name and it's going to show up right here. So let's begin with this overexposed video. First of all, the highlights are way too bright. So let's just drag those highlights down so we can see some detail in the surrounding area. Then go to whites and you just want to reduce it so you don't get this blasting white color, but rather something soft. Now the video is looking a little flat, so let's increase the contrast with the contrast slider. As for shadows, I'm going to reduce the amount to create more contrast. Alright, you can also grab the exposure and pull it down. It really depends on your video, but for me, the only issue I had here was that I shot against the light source. I did this on purpose so we can get some overexposure in our video. Normally, you wouldn't want to do this, and if your video was way more overexposed than the video here, then you would want to use the exposure slider too. Work with the white balance, make it the way you want it to, but so far it's looking better. Head down to the curves adjustments and work with the different points to get a decent result. So let's go to color wheels and match, and since I don't have any details in the windows due to the fact that I shot against direct sunlight, I can just maybe add a simple tint to the highlights and make it look better. So I will add maybe a warm yellow color to make it look like sunlight, then tint the shadows and highlights to the way that I want. So now I have somewhat salvaged my overexposed shot. This is what it looked like before, this is what it looks like after. So the more detail your video has, the more you can salvage. Now let's take a look at our second example where we have a really underexposed video. Begin with basic correction. Here I just want to increase the exposure so we can see what we're dealing with. Increase the shadows, contrast, increase the whites, and a little for highlights. You don't want to touch the blacks because you're going to just flatten everything out. So now just with those sliders, I can see what's happening inside this clip. All I have to do is to go down to curves and just make this perfect with an S curve. There we go, the video is looking a little yellow. So go to the blue channel and lift up the midtones towards the blue side to cancel out the yellow colors. Go to green. We got some green now. Lower that downwards towards magenta, which is the opposite color of green. There we go. Now let's go to the creative section and increase the vibrance, sharpen this video, and a little bit of saturation. So the video is looking pretty good right now. We have brought out the details. Now we can tell that this is a plant, but we're getting a lot of noise. Now with underexposed videos, this is a pretty common problem that you will face regardless of what you're using. And if you are using a camera, using a high ISO and the wrong shutter speed can lead you to this problem. But we already learned how to fix this, so this will not be that big of a deal. I will just go to my color wheels and add some color grading to this, maybe have the highlights go towards a colder side. Shadows, I'll bring it to a warmer side. And I'll just bring the midtones to a colder side to balance out the colors. Basic correction, work with temperature and tint. So we just used exposure to the full amount because we had a lot of dark areas. Go to the effects tab right here and look for the VR denoise effect. Double click to apply it to your video. Once you did that, go to the effect controls. I added 2 by accident. Delete the first one and we can just zoom right in and decide how much of this we want. So this right now is way too much. Just lower that. As you recall, you want to add a really small number. And if needed, work your way up from there. Let's try 0.15. That's looking good. Look for the sharpen effect. Go to VR sharpen, double click. And now we can add to the sharpen amount. So this will end up bringing a little bit of noise in. So you want to add maybe 2 or 1. And that way we can minimize the noise result. Bring this above your denoise. And now things are looking better than they did before. This was before. This is after. It's not exactly perfect, but we managed to get something out of our video. Now, if you're not happy with the result, let me play this back. What you can do is to first reframe your video by zooming in so we can avoid the edges. Let's add the reduce interface flicker, which is right there, and add maybe 6 to the video. When I play this back, you will notice a little bit of a flickering effect in the details. So what we're going to do is to duplicate the clip, hold down Option or Alt, and bring it right above. On the top video, we're going to reduce the opacity to 50%. And then using the slip tool, we're going to shift this 2 frames towards the right so that the top layer is not playing exactly with the bottom layer. So once we have that, we should be able to reduce that flickering effect and get something better. So now let's take a look at it before and after. So this was before we had a really dark video. And this is after. Using these simple techniques, you can save your overexposed or underexposed videos. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson and I will see you in the next one.